What is Donald Trump's plan for veterans, given that they are making massive cuts to veteran services? Welcome to Philosophy All Along. I'm a professional philosopher. I like to use the tools of philosophy to help me understand things on a deeper level. Now, they are making massive cuts to the VA. That's the department that serves veterans. They fired something like 1,000 people already, and their internal memos suggest that they want to fire 80,000 more staffers for the VA. Now, that isn't a matter of, okay, well, we've discovered that these people are bad at their jobs. We're going to replace them with other people. This is a matter of them saying that they want to return to something like 2019 levels of staffing. So these are just simply going to be firings. They're not going to replace them with anybody else. So far, there doesn't seem to be any evidence to suggest that these people are bad at their jobs, right? When we ask Elon Musk, okay, so where's the evidence that shows that these people have been fired? In fact, they're being fired for specific reasons. It isn't there. And one of the big problems, of course, that we have is that there's a very long history of veterans being underserved, particularly by the VA. You'll hear all of these horror stories from vets about long lines, not being able to get treatment, not being able to get the treatment that they need. And so part of the reason why staffing was increased from 2019 was specifically to address that problem. And now a lot of veterans are starting to come out saying that they're feeling betrayed by the Trump administration, that some of them are Trump voters who are saying, well, I feel betrayed by the person that I voted for. So what exactly is going on here? Well, we should note that the attacks on veterans are even worse than just this matter of, okay, reducing the VA. 30% of the federal workforce are vets. And the reason for that is because even though they're a smaller percentage of the population at large, there's a law that requires that the federal government give hiring preference to veterans, which makes perfect sense. Now, that means that of the some 10,000 people who have been fired through Elon Musk's action so far, something like 3,000 of them have been veterans. Are we willing to say, well, all of those veterans happen to have been bad at their jobs or part of waste and fraud and abuse? That seems profoundly unlikely. So it even gets worse for veterans because a lot of the cuts that are being made are to things like research. So the VA and other veteran support services do research that help support veterans. So things like prostate cancer or research to help support them through PTSD. So a lot of the cuts that are being done to scientific research are also hitting those programs as well. We've seen things like problems with hotlines where staffing changes, reductions are reducing the ability for veterans to be able to get help through these emergency hotlines where they're often incredibly emotionally distressed, but also the return to work policies have made it so that the people who are answering the phones for these hotlines are having to do these in open air offices. So they're having to whisper or they're having to go to their cars. None of this seems to be planned out or at least well planned in any way to serve veterans in the best possible way. We have reports that people at the VA, the therapists at the VA, are having to respond to the emails that Elon Musk is sending out, and they feel incredibly kind of under attack, and that the VA, unlike some of the other departments, is not kind of shielding them from Elon Musk. So other departments are saying, well, we'll make the determinations for who should be fired. The VA seems to be willing to let Elon Musk kind of go through and do whatever he wants to it and supports his plan. So now we have reports of counselors saying things like their clients are coming up to them, these veterans are coming up to them saying, hey, are you going to lose your job? I'm really worried about this. And the therapist saying, it's not your job to worry about me. It's my job to help support you. So there's kind of this long laundry list of ways in which veteran support and the needs of veterans look like they may not be met and are already vets are being hit more heavily than the rest of the population in terms of these firings. So what's going on here? Well, one thing that would be easy to say is Donald Trump has often been reported saying things that seem to be not really as supportive of veterans behind the scenes as he is out there in public. But we can never verify that. We don't know for sure if he, has said whatever he said about veterans that people say he says behind closed doors. We do know the things that he said in public, right? He definitely went after John McCain, and he definitely said that he prefers people who are not caught, right? And so if you remember, John McCain was, of course, a veteran, and he was tortured. And Donald Trump really seemed to show no respect for that. But I think it's a stretch to say, well, Donald Trump is specifically coming after veterans because he has some sort of disdain for them. It's more likely that he just isn't invested in them, that veterans have been unfortunately used by both parties, but apparently, as of late, by Republicans, as a political pawn. It's always easy to say, well, we care about veterans and we're patriotic, but it's expensive to support them. And we have noticed over and over again, when it comes to that kind of support, Republicans are the first ones to kind of really balk at it. A great example is all of the first responders for the attack on the Twin Towers. A lot of them have serious illnesses as a result of the things that they were exposed to and things that they were breathing in when they were going and like searching the rubble and trying to save people's lives. And notably, there is funding to help those first responders deal with those healthcare issues, but that funding usually comes up for expiration. The people who seem to fight the extending of that funding the most is Republicans, which is very strange because they're always the ones saying that they support the police and the firefighters and veterans and so on and so forth. But it is usually Democrats who are saying, no, but we should actually fund it. But again, it tends to be very expensive. And so Republicans tend to say, well, we don't want to spend more money, while at the same time claiming to be the party that supports veterans. But you don't see it in the actual policy actions. One thing that is really important to note is our treatment of veterans is absolutely inexcusable by both parties, but from what I can tell, especially by Republicans. They've never been able to get the support that they need. They've never been able to get it as quickly as they need. So they go out there, they lose limbs, they are concussed, right? They see their friends dying, and then they come back. We don't have a place for them. A significant percentage of them end up homeless. We don't have the support services that they need or deserve. And so it makes absolutely no sense that right now we're saying, okay, well, let's go ahead and make more cuts to those support services. Well, is there a reason for this? And I think there is. If you start to do the math, if they return to 2019 levels of staffing, well, that suggests that they are also hoping to return to 2019 levels of service. In other words, we have moved from about 6 million veterans being served by the VA to about 9 million veterans being served by the VA over the last 4 years. That's about $54 billion worth of service at $17,000 per vet. Now, that is $54 billion. That could be a lot more money if it was in the private sector. The VA hospital costs about 23% less than the average hospital. Now, look at all the people who stand to benefit from veterans having to go out to the private sector to get their healthcare needs met. Private insurers benefit from this. Hospitals who want to increase prices benefit from this. Healthcare providers in general who want to make more money, and pharmaceuticals, because all of those things are kept at reduced cost to the VA. They can't charge as much as they want. But if those veterans have to go outside to that, well, then they can charge those vets as much as they want. They can charge the veterans' health insurance, their private health insurance, as much as they want. So really what we're talking about is something like $54 billion that the private sector wants to see not only return to the private sector, but at significantly increased costs, right? Maybe it's 30% more of $54 billion that they are able to charge. Well, that's a significant number. So long story short, what I think is actually happening here is that if you look at the Trump administration, you see an awful lot of billionaires and you see an awful lot of lobbyists and a lot of people who are pushing to privatize things. They're attacking the post office, they're attacking education, trying to privatize it, and they're attacking the VA and trying to privatize it. The real story here is that Republicans and Trump are always going to try and make it sound like what they're doing, they're trying to do for the best interest of people, even though we can actually see the massive negative impacts that it has, that they're going to make it about culture war issues and that they're going to make it about funding and they're going to make it about corruption. But take, for example, the fact that veterans who need some sort of gender affirming care, they can't get it now. And the argument is going to be, well, because blah, 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 gender affirming and trans people are bad, et cetera, et cetera. But it also, it's a place where a lot of money can be made. There's a lot of money that can be made by moving these veterans outside of the public support system. And so at the end of the day, what it always reminds me, and it's to remind all of us, is that all of us are just dollar signs to these people. It's just a way of being able to squeeze out more money. And if they can say, we're here to support veterans, and then get themselves elected, but then find a way to squeeze as many dollars out of those veterans as they can, they will. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, by all means, comment. If I missed anything, let me know. And with that, have a good day.